Okay, Dan, just want to ask you, sorry, we had a bit of an aborted attempt at recording the last interview. Just want to ask you about your time in Zambia and what was the reason for going?
Well, I had to do my conservation ecology final year project, sort of like a mini thesis, and I got in hold of my supervisor and heard that he had a project which needed to be done in Zambia, and it involved doing a carbon footprint analysis and carbon neutrality plan for Wilderness Safaris, which is a safari operator in southern Africa.
Okay. And when you got there, just tell me a bit about when you arrived and whether they were prepared for students, how you felt about that?
Well, I arrived in Lusaka and was taken to their head office where they'd just built and were in the process of building a little tented camp for guests who were staying at head office, and so I was allocated a tent which was very comfy, and yeah, the team in Zambia is quite small, but I got to know everyone quite quickly and they're very welcoming of me, although I don't think they have very many students passing through.
Okay, and anything interesting, any other researchers or scientists that you met there?
In Lusaka at head office I met a researcher called Neil Midlane, who's just about to start doing his PhD on lion in the Kafue National Park.
Okay, and tell me a bit about the different places that you visited. I heard you went into a couple of the parks.
Yeah, I went into one park, the Kafue National Park, and was able to visit 3 different wilderness safaris camps while I was there. The first camp I visited and stayed 2 nights was Lufupa Camp, which is comprised of Lufupa Tented Camp and Lufupa River Camp. It's the biggest camp that they operate in Zambia. It's on the confluence of the Kafue and Lufupa rivers, so very nice setting, and I was well looked after there. And from there I moved to Musanza Bush Camp, which is a lot more rustic, for another 2 nights, which is on the banks of the Lufupa. And from there went to Shumba Camp, which is a premier camp, so it's pretty lani.
Okay, and any particular highlights or wildlife experiences during your trip?
Yeah, well, having a paid holiday for 2 weeks was definitely a highlight, but other than that, on driving out from Lufupa back to Lusaka, we came across 3 wild dogs that had just killed a puku, and so watched them eating it, and they were later chased off by a hyena, which was quite interesting.
Okay, and the difference in animals and the sort of different habitat compared to what you're used to, the bush in Zimbabwe, what was this like?
Yeah, well, there isn't any Mopani veld like I'm used to in the low veld, but there's a lot of water because they have a very wet season, and so there's a lot of wetland type areas bordered by fringes of trees, some of which remain submerged for probably half the year.
And the particular species that like puku?
I saw lots of red lechery, lots of puku, which sometimes confused with impala, and then lots of water birds, lots of spurwing geese, and lots of crown cranes, wattled crane, saddle-billed stork, and open-billed stork, and then a couple specials like the African finfoot, Bohm's bee-eater, and Shallow's turako.
Okay. Okay. And movement between the camps because of the wet. You said, yeah, that sounded quite interesting.
Well, what happens is, as the roads slowly dry out, they can drive a bit more, but to get between certain camps, you have to use a mokoro, and then sometimes even a Go Devil riverboat to get around.
Okay, and the Go Devil riverboat, and explain a bit about the mokoro.
Well, the mokoro is traditionally carved out of the trunk of a big tree into a canoe type shape, but the ones these guys use are just plastic, sort of Indian two-man canoes, which they pole through the shallows. The hippo help create channels which allow you to move through the reed beds quite easily in the mokoros. And the Go Devil boat is the Go Devil's a special kind of motor, which allows the boat to move in probably 6 inches of water, also through the reed beds.
Okay. And from what you saw, do the local community benefit from the presence of wilderness safari? Safaris?
Well, I don't know about the direct benefit from wilderness safaris. However, Wilderness Safaris has a sister company called the Wilderness Trust, and they do a lot of work helping communities in the surrounding areas.
Okay. And some of the experiences that you had with the local people?
Yeah, I got the opportunity to go up the Lefupa River and look at the fishing weirs, which were constructed a long time ago by communities that practice subsistence fishing along these rivers. And basically the government allows teams of men to come and fish from these weirs for about 5 months of the year, and then the fish that they catch they take back to nearby villages and sell. The weirs, how they work is they'll patch them up at the beginning of the season to make sure that they're watertight, and then at the bases of these weirs they'll remove a few logs and replace that opening with a funnel trap, and so as the fish try and swim downstream they get caught in the trap, and then they're collected and gutted and dried and then packaged to take to the local markets.
Okay, and the weirs, are they built of wood? Are they wooden structures?
They just, during the dry season, they drive poles into the mud quite deep, and then those poles are supported with another pole which is leant up against it downstream, sort of like a V which it leans into. Yeah.
Okay. And Dan, with regards to your project, how are they progressing, or what do you think their carbon footprint is like? Are they very sort of conservation oriented, or?
I think Wilderness Safaris is quite heavily conservation oriented, and they are trying to reduce their carbon emissions, which is evidenced by the number of solar geysers that they have and the number of PV panels which they use to power lights and radios and that sort of thing. And so at the moment they're running quite a sustainable operation.
Okay. And you spoke about like one of the camps being a lot smarter than the others. For the high fee paying clients, how do their movements?
The clients paying higher fees and staying at the more Lani camps are offered services like helicopter transfers and that sort of thing, and they will get the opportunity to view the surrounding wetlands from the chopper, and so they get an all-round experience. I know that they'll also be offering hot air balloons over the wetlands as they dry out, which should be an awesome way to see the game. But overall they just get an exclusive area of land which they can cruise around looking for game.
Okay. And I believe you flew in to one of the camps with some of these high fee paying clients, and how?
Yeah, I flew in with a bunch of American guests. We flew from Lusaka into Busanga airstrip, and then dropped them there, and they got in the chopper to go to Shumba camp. And from there, myself and the pilot flew to Lufupa camp, and I got the chance to get behind the wheel of the little Cessna we were in.
Yeah, that must have been great. So, yeah, also just to ask a little bit about the local food. How did you enjoy that? Did you try anything?
Well, I had the staple diet, which is nshima, which is like sadza. Had that every day, and then once in a while I had some kapenta, which they fried with onion and tomato, which I really enjoyed. Or otherwise just a whole fried bream, which you just pick the meat off the bones. But I really enjoyed eating with them, eating with my hands in the traditional African way.
Okay. And the names of any of the people who made an impression on you, or who you spent time with?
I don't know, it's hard to say. I mean, I was there for so short at each camp and didn't really get to know anyone particularly well. But Dean Morton, the guy who I liaised with and who set everything up from head office, was really good to me. And then Neil Midlane, the guy doing his line research. And then one character I really enjoyed was Evidence, who is the manager of Musanza Bush Camp.
Okay. No, that sounds good. Anyway, Daniel, I wish you all the very best as you write up your project, and I look forward to seeing the results. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Jill.